Hi, this is Lakhi Singh, the Property Fixer, here to fix you and help you grow your property and your business affairs to the next level. So if you're looking for knowledge and insights about how to get involved in property, solve your problems about scalability in your property business, then do watch our 20-minute clips. We've taken them from hundreds and thousands of videos that we've taken over the last 6 months, and we've broken down into simple chunks which can make them useful for you. So do watch and do subscribe to our YouTube channel underneath as well.
Hi, good morning. How are you all doing? This is Lakhi Singh. I'm live today with Ninja Singh Johal.
Good morning.
And if you're probably thinking, why is Lakhi Singh, the fixer, sounding a bit rusty? It's because VJ Sal isn't here to steal the limelight, and I normally don't host, so I have to put my hosting voice on. So this is the new hosting Lakhi Singh today. So welcome Ninja Singh, Sat Sri Akal.
Good morning, Sat Sri Akal. Good morning to you.
How are you doing? What's the weather like in Brum?
It's drizzling, and I think it was the same last time we spoke. I think it was drizzling then as well. So yeah, it's drizzling.
Yeah, I've just had a look through the window. The weather's not looking that nice, to be honest. So it's great to be actually hosting today. So I'm, how do you say, quite new to hosting, taking the place of VJ Sal. So I should have put my dark glasses on. What do you reckon? Do you think that would suit my profile? Or I couldn't really find my dark glasses this morning.
Well, I think if you'd had your dark glasses on, I would have asked, have you been involved in a hockey match?
Yeah, I think, that's true. It would have been handy at that time, actually. So welcome, viewers. Sat Sri Akal, hello, shalom. How many ways of saying hello are there? Ciao, guten morgen, buongiorno, bona domanianza, that's Romanian, and sat shong hao for my Chinese friends. So yeah, hopefully my Chinese will improve. I need to practice that fi shong hao. That means fantastic day today. So Ninda, we'll start with the saying of the week was, if I can remember it correctly, is that if there's a rocket ship to the moon, just jump on and get on it. That was a saying. And what I wanted to find out from you, is that something you would do? I think I can't remember the full saying, but the idea was that if you can go somewhere, would you just jump on? Would you have reservations? That could be taken in both ways, couldn't it? When you say reservations,
I think a lot of it is dependent on the personality of the person. So they can either be, I'm going to use the word carefully, not impulsive, but somebody who takes an opportunity very quickly, goes with what we call a gut feeling, and can feel intuitively this is an opportunity to take, and they go for it. On the other side are those who reflect, investigate, research, and by the time they've done all that, the opportunity is gone. And really, it's understanding where you sit on that spectrum. And entrepreneurs tend to be the former, so they tend to move quickly. They tend to pursue something very quickly, take the opportunity, and probably on balance will succeed, but will have a lot of failures en route because they didn't take that very sort of dogmatic view. But people who are in the professions, people who work for other people, will probably be a lot more diligent, will probably, and if they're educated, they'll take more time, they'll be more risk averse, and they'll make sure that the ducks are all lined up before they go for it. And of course, classically, a bank manager, if you go to a bank manager for a loan, he will expect that due diligence. He'll want a balance sheet, he'll want projected cash flows, he'll want a business plan to back it up. So almost forcing you to be that reflective person. But of course, with opportunities, it depends whether you want to be what we call a first mover into the market first. And that tends to mean that things are uncertain because you have nothing to compare it with. It's brand new. Example would be Mr. Tesla with his electric cars. He didn't hang around, he went for it. People asked, what's with these electric cars? But he was first mover, and the rest of the automotive industry is now chasing him, keeping up with him. And there are others, of course. Do you remember the Sinclair keyboard? The first computer, and
Oh, yeah.
you could argue probably ahead of his time.
I think I remember those times.
Yeah, and
I think a lot of viewers probably can't remember that far back.
Yeah, so he was ahead of his time, and perhaps he did jump on the ship, but maybe the market conditions weren't quite right. So, you know, it all depends on opportunity, on timing, the nature of the trip on the ship, the magnitude of it, the risk involved, how much resource it requires, and how much it affects whatever you're currently doing. So in other words, is it 10% of your total worth so you can afford to take the risk and be reckless? That's the right word. So yeah, listen, long-winded answer.
So from your point of view, I think you'd actually put a little bit more thought to it and work out the pros and cons before you made a jump because of your depth of experience in life. I think you'd be somewhat cautious, but yet also very optimistic, depending on how you saw the opportunity. And so it's all dependent upon, because I suppose it's a very sort of fleeting statement, really, isn't it? It's like, would you get into a rocket ship if it was going to the moon, sort of thing? But what if you get stuck up there? What are you going to do? Are you going to come back? So I think it is a good way of probably understanding really how people look at the statement. How they understand it will reflect upon their character and their profile and their mindset and their wonderment in their life as well. I suppose it's all those things.
I think a classic example in property then, and I'm always amazed by people who do this, are those who buy at auction and don't really have an idea what the property entails until they get into the place. And that's quite an extraordinary risk to take. So I think, you know, that might be somebody who will say, well, why do you may have a sort of an idea, it's in this region, it's on this road, so we've got an idea. But really, when they give you the keys and you walk in, that's when you really find out.
Yeah, I think there's some people that buy in auctions blind.
Yeah.
And I'll be very honest, I used to at one stage buy about 10 properties in a month. Wow. In auction.
Wow.
And nearly all of them were bought blind.
Wow.
So
you were definitely
so I think I needed myself then, the fixer, to deal with all the surprises. So I think obviously at that time it was a different market because there was ample money. So and there's a capital growth market. So wherever you bought it, pretty much, you were going to get money. So I think it's horses for courses because things seem to change as well. So you can't just, if you went out and bought property at auction now, have to be super careful because you won't get the funding because the lenders are 10 times more risk averse. So before we carry on, we've got a shout out from Cameron Singh. So hi, Cameron Singh. And Meena Kapoor. We've just had a message from Meena and from John Smith. So welcome all. Fortunately, some of the team are still, some of my team are off today, so I can't see all the messages because we're on actually about 9 different platforms in this thing. So we're on YouTube and about 9 groups across the country. Wow. So I think this is the widest live that we've done using StreamYard. I've also got a question here from one of the viewers. Why are there lots of inexperienced buyers at auctions? I think that's probably addressed to me, I should think. Why are there so many inexperienced buyers at auctions? So that's a good question. I think what happens is auctions sometimes people have a sort of feeling that they're just going to go and pick up a bargain, and they don't really understand the numbers.
Yep.
So the other bit I've got to tell you is that I used to speak at quite a well-known person's events for his about 100 people at a time about how to buy in auctions from time to time. So I do know a little bit about auctions, and one of the things I did do was that although we did buy blind, we analyzed about 100 properties that are on there. We analyzed about the top 30 that we thought were deals, and we did the numbers, and we did the law of averages, and we did the some understanding of what's required to actually maybe turn those projects around. So the reason there's lots of inexperienced people is I think a lot of people think it's easy money, and they want to go in and bid, and they may be addicted to sort of trying to make money as opposed to understanding the numbers, because auction seems like an easy way of making money, but it's a bit like gambling. So I think people who've got addictive nature, they're going to be going in thinking, okay, I'll throw a bit of money in there, I'll make a few bucks. They're not really thinking about the detail. What do you reckon, Ninja Singh?
Yeah, I think the first question I always ask myself, why is this property at an auction? That's the first question, because why?
Would you mind speaking up a bit? Because I think there's something wrong with my volume, so it may not be you.
So I think the first question always you ask yourself, why is it at an auction house? In other words,
right, okay.
So that's the first question you should ask yourself. Why isn't it sold on the open market? So there's obviously a reason behind it. So I would start with that question first. And then I think, as I said earlier, I would do look at the road, because the road in the area will give you a sort of median price of what a house would go for or be valued or sold. Then I think when you walk into the auction, you know that price because you've done your research. You then compare it to what's been offered. But as you said quite correctly, Lakhi, the middle bit, the bit between what you buy and what you sell, that's the question mark, because until you walk through that door, you're not really going to know what you're going for. So I'll give you an example. I remember there was a house going on auction close to where I live, and it must have been at a third of the price. It was going to auction. And you ask yourself, why is such a fantastic looking house at a third of the price? What we then understood from a third party, that it was so structurally flawed that whoever was going to buy it was going to have to buy it at cash price, because every funder, because of its structural deficiency, would never give you the money. So they knew that half of the market would never buy it because they would rely on external funds to buy it. So it's when you dig in and you find it, and then of course you say, well, then your next question is, well, how structurally flawed is it? And it could mean you have to knock the whole thing down and start again. So, I always start with the question, why is it on auction? Why is it being given at a discount? There's a reason behind it, and it's whether you know what that reason is.
Well, I think that's a very, very good question. I think if you're quite new to auctions and are not really aware of all the risks or aware of all the parameters in terms of how auction houses function, you could easily get yourself into a pickle and end up getting literally chopped up and chopped out again in terms of losing money. So I've seen it happen many a time, and I myself have actually made quite a few rookie mistakes myself. Actually, that's why whatever you're saying, I wholeheartedly agree with it. But what are the other techniques I think is useful for the viewers to know is that I used to pre-bid, pre-auction, and try to purchase the assets before they went into auction. And if you're doing quite a high volume of purchases, you could build up a very good relationship with the auctioneers, and they're more likely to be plausible to working with you and probably give you a bit more access to the portfolio of properties they've got and give you more information and probably give you a heads up as well to the reason. So that could be very lucrative, but you've got to be seen to be a bit of a mover and shaker to be able to make moves with the auctioneers. But it is a very sort of, it's a bit like the car business, being an auctioneer. It's a very trading sort of mentality. They treat the assets very much like it's a bit like buying a car. You don't really know when you go to auctions. There's car auctions as well. And I've actually been my car to an auction, Leighton Buzzard, I think it must have been about literally 40 years ago. And my dad bid for a few cars, but he went with an experienced mechanic. So that made it easier, so they knew what to bid for and what risks to take, because the mechanic would know roughly what the worst case costs would be. So I think having the knowledge behind some of these things actually is probably critical to your success. So moving on, I think today's other topic is, I've actually put this topic down, I think, to sort of mix it up a little bit for the viewers, because on the whole, 90% of our conversations are normally around property. But as we have the VVIP, Mr. Ninja Singh, Punjabi MC, Mr. Royalties holder for Punjabi MC, he's got a lot of contacts and knowledge with the business influencers, and he's got a magazine called The Business Influencer. So before we start going into my topic, I'm going to ask him in a minute to tell me what's been going on. Give me a 5-minute overview what's been going on in his week, because I love a bit of name dropping about people that he's been interviewing. So if you could give us some stuff that's going in his magazine and who's interviewed, I think you'll be happy to share that with us, because I think it's going to be public anyway. So that's question one coming up in a second. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the second question is going to be, we have to go through the 10 top strategies to how you can make good money in a recession. So I'm going to literally squeeze a lot of valuable information out of Ninja, which I'm going to literally try to list for the viewers out there, so they themselves can get some invaluable information from him, because we've got I think over 950 people now on this group, and I think a lot of people will benefit. So Ninja, tell us a bit more. I think there may be a volume problem, but try again. You might have to switch off and come back in again, but try again.
Okay, can you hear me now?
I can hear you fine, yeah. Sorry, I think yesterday one of the viewers cut off because we wouldn't hear her. But do tell me, number one, 5-10 minutes on really. Tell us a little bit about some of the key interviews you've had for the Business Influence in the last week or so. Okay,
so yeah, so a lot of it's around entrepreneurship. So yesterday we spoke to someone. In fact, I put it on LinkedIn yesterday. He's an entrepreneur he's a serial entrepreneur. He's got quite a few businesses. One's a training company. One's a new innovative product in the sanitizer market. As you can imagine, that's good timing. It was interesting chatting to him. He thought both of his businesses would do well for the next 4 or 5 years. The training business, because his training business helps those people who are unemployed. So he suspects the next couple of years there'll be a lot of people unemployed whom his company can retrain. In terms of the sanitizers, it's quite an innovative product. It's alcohol free, which makes it good for the skin, and it's a really, really great product. And obviously he's now just done a deal with the Commonwealth Games. He's done a deal with the Middle East. He's now looking at going into Africa. So, this COVID thing's not going to go away very quickly. So he'll do well in that instance. Interestingly, last week we interviewed somebody who supplies services to the events market, and he's totally different. He's been affected really a lot by the demise of the events industry. And again, we did videos, so when you get the magazine, you'll be able to read their stories, but actually you'll be able to watch a video of them being interviewed around the same thing. Next week, we're interviewing the chair of, check this out, Tesco PLC, the actual chair of Tesco's PLC.
Well, just hold on 1 second there, Ninja. We've got a Deborah Sophia Magdalene saying good morning. So good morning, Sophia. Deborah, welcome on the show. But I think Ninja's going to go into test